Welcome to Black Cat Chat. My name's Andy Clow. I'm the Marketing Director at Black Cat Building Consultancy. Today I've got the absolute pleasure of being joined by Ollie Folkes. It's Ollie rather than Oliver.
Ollie, absolutely.
Ollie, just checking.
Yeah.
Okay. And he's going to be talking through, I think, really your history and your kind of experience coming all the way through from early career all the way through to the really integral part of Black Cat that you are today. And I think the best way to start is for you to just introduce yourself and go for that kind of early stage, and we'll work our way through.
Yep. Okay. Well, I'm Ollie Folkes. I am a chartered building surveyor.
Okay.
And I've been a building surveyor now probably for 26, 27 years.
Sure.
So a long time. Time passes.
It does, doesn't it? Yeah.
It does.
Yeah.
So how did it all start? For me, I was at school. I was 15 years of age, and my father said to me, "Come on, you need to start thinking about your career."
Smart man.
And I said, "Well, I'm only 15. I don't really know what I want to do yet." So he said, "Well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to send you off for a day's work experience with a friend of mine, lived in another village." And I said, "Okay." And I said, "What does he do?" And he said, "Well, he's a building surveyor." I said, "Well, I don't know what one of those is, but
Yeah.
Why not? I'll have a go." And so I did. So I went and inspected a house with this gentleman,
Yeah.
and we went up in the loft, we lifted floorboards, we did all sorts of things, and then I helped him write up the report.
Brilliant.
Or I had a go at doing a part of it, and he wrote it up. And then I came away and I thought to myself, oh my goodness, I rather like this building surveying lark. So that was it. That guided me to making the decision, and I didn't think about other careers after having had that experience. So I simply applied to become or applied for a course in building surveying at the University of the West of England, and I did a 3-year full-time course. And when you go on a building surveying course, you really have to become a building surveyor. Doesn't really lend itself very well to going into other professions or other jobs.
Truly vocational education.
That's it. That's the term, vocational. Yeah. And so I did that, and then I came out of university, and the job market wasn't great. It was towards the end of the early 1990s recession.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
And I found myself struggling to find somewhere, and so I issued hundreds of letters, and I called a lot of practices, and nothing came. And my father was then getting impatient with me and said, "Well, you'll have to forget building surveying, go off and do something else." And I said to him, "No, Dad, I've spent 3 years at university."
On your advice as well.
Yeah, on your advice.
Yeah.
And so I want to become one. And then out of the blue, I had a call from a local sort of residential and building surveying practice. They said, "We're not looking for a graduate, we're looking for a senior surveyor, but why don't you just come in and have a chat?" And so I went in and saw this chap, and we talked about rugby for 45 minutes. It was back in the days when the Six Nations was the Five Nations Championship, which is a long time ago. And at the end of the 45 minutes, I thought he was going to then start asking me questions around my interest in building surveying and all the sort of professional stuff. And he said to me, "Can you start on Monday?"
I mean, that's a fantastic lesson in business, right?
It was
personality and relationship building right there.
Yeah, it was peculiar, but I needed that break. I was sort of wanted to get into work. I was itching to get going. So I said, "Brilliant, thank you so much." So for that first 2.5 years of my career, I pretty much spent most of my time working on the drawing board. So I was measuring buildings. Again, it shows my age, working on the drawing board.
This is
before computer-aided design. And so I would go and measure buildings, all sorts of things, measuring thicknesses of walls, heights of floors. Came back with a huge plethora of information, and then draw it all up.
Now, with those buildings, were they residential, like your experiment back when you were 15, or had you moved into the commercial space?
So it was a bit of both. It was some residential and some commercial. The ones that stick in the mind were period buildings, which were had been used for commercial uses but were being converted to residential, so subdivided. And I realise now, I didn't necessarily realise at the time, it was a great grounding in understanding the way buildings are put together. Yeah. Just the basic fundamentals of how it works. And so I had 2.5 years there. Then I got itchy feet and thought I'd like to try the commercial sector. Yeah. So I joined a large company called Chesterton, which the commercial division disappeared from existence a long time ago now. I think it was 2003. And I had 2.5 years there, which was a great experience. That was in Bristol. And then my wife, who was girlfriend at the time, was studying law at UWE in Bristol, and she was being sponsored by a law firm in London. And so when she passed her course, she then had to move to London to effectively repay the sponsorship. And so I had to make a decision on whether to stay in Bristol or follow up to London. So I moved to London with her and joined CBRE, where I was for 16 years in total. Yes, it was really good for my career. I was slightly reluctant at the time about moving to London because I never had that in mind. But when I got to London, for a building surveyor, you're exposed to a tremendous range of building types, and in particular, very large buildings. And I remember on literally the first week at CBRE, I was told to go off and inspect a building that was 250,000 square feet, a huge office building. I thought to myself, gosh, I'm not qualified to do this. But very quickly I understood that in London, there's obviously a huge number of buildings and a huge number of very large buildings. So everybody gets to experience working on very large buildings, irrespective of your experience level, and you learn very quickly. So it was a really good time, and I look back and think that I'm really glad I went to London. But not being from London, and neither my wife being from London, we both knew that London would be a finite period of time, and so we left there after 6 years and moved back to Bristol, where we met. And I actually transferred with CBRE, and then had another 10 years there. And for the last 3 years, I took over the leadership of the department. The former head of department retired. And so it was lovely. I experienced running a large team. I forget how many there were, probably 13 or 14 people. But then Black Cat came knocking.
As it tends to do.
Yes.
Okay.
And it was Steve, Ben and James.
And when was this?
So this was in 2018.
2018.
Late 2017.
So we were only a couple of years old by that point, right?
Yes, 3 years old. The business, set up in 2015, so 3 years old, 2.5 years old. And they said, we've set up this business in Manchester. They all worked at CBR as well, so that's where I knew them from. And they said, it's going really, really well. But we have clients in the south of the country who we have been serving, but we're finding it difficult, all that travel, to service them properly. So we're looking for somebody to open an office outside of Manchester. Would you be interested? And it took me a moment to decide, yes, purely because everything was going very, very well at CBRE, and I enjoyed it there. But the thought of starting something new from scratch was very exciting.
It is, isn't it?
And so it didn't take too long for me to decide it was the right thing to do. So I said yes, and we opened the Bristol office in June 2018. Now Steve, Ben and James said straight away, before you start, we want somebody to come and join you and work with you, rather than you just be alone. And so they said, who would you like to join and be part of the team? And at the time I thought, I don't really know who I would like to join with me.
I'm excited to find out who this is. Are they still at Black Cat?
Yes, they are.
Okay, good.
They are still at Black Cat.
So we get a bit more history.
So they said, who would you like to join? I said, well, I don't really know. They said, well, we've got an idea. And I thought to myself, well, what will you know? You're based in Manchester. How would you know of somebody good in the Bristol arena? And so they said, well, we know this lady called Lisa Phone.
I thought it was Lisa.
Lisa, she was at JLL.
Yep.
Why don't we set up a meeting? So we had a coffee at John Lewis, sort of late one day, and straight away I thought, yeah, I think she'd be brilliant. Yeah. And so she joined, and so within a month of me joining, she'd started, and we had the first couple of years, just the two of us. We were in a tiny little room in the building we're in currently, but we were right at the top of the building.
Okay.
And it was roastingly hot in the summer months.
Yeah.
It was unbearable.
No AC.
No air conditioning, even with the windows wide open. It was just heat rised up through the.
Yeah, of course.
So it made it very difficult to operate, but we did. And then from there, we've grown very gradually.
Yeah.
I would say I'm slightly cautious, on the cautious side when it comes to recruitment.
Okay.
I don't like to run before we can walk, and so we've tended to add one person a year.
Okay.
But in the last couple of years, we've been adding 2. So we're now a team of 11.
Okay. Yeah.
We've got 7 building surveyors.
But as we were discussing just before the call, so that kind of definitely for a long time was the second largest group, and I think we're possibly there as well, maybe in alignment with London as we stand now.
Yes.
And it's quite nice to hear somebody within the Black Cat makeup that is openly slightly more cautious, because some people I think may think that we are, very confident, to put it in a good way, in taking these steps forward, because when I've sat here, we are recruiting, we're expanding, but to hear a slightly different approach is good, and it shows that we are, we're not just one size fits all.
Yeah,
it's a good opportunity.
That's right.
So,
I think I've been quite cautious throughout my life in all aspects of life, and it's tended to work out quite well, but it might take a bit longer. But the outcome is good, and it's more certain, so that works well. So we're now 7 building surveyors. We have 2 ESG consultants and an architect and an admin person. So that's the 11 of us.
Fantastic.
A nice cohesive team of people.
Yeah.
We go out together and have lunches and a few drinks. It's a nice sociable, steady unit.
Yeah.
And the beauty for me of being at Black Cat is the lack of bureaucracy that exists in this company compared to where I've been before. Even for somebody that runs a team, I spend most of my time fee earning and the rest of my time seeing clients. But what I don't get caught up in, because we just don't do it at Black Cat, is internal meetings or even staff appraisals. We don't do that. We just trust people to do a good job, and we're selective in who we employ.
Yes,
and that bears fruit because people just get on and do the work.
Well, I think a phrase that came up in a previous recording that we've done with one of our other colleagues was that Black Cat treats people like grown-ups, which sounds like a silly thing, like you think you should expect that within a business. But I know in my experience, I've never really had that confidence that I'm being treated like a grown-up and able to do what I do. And you've clearly got that faith in the right team, that they're out there doing what they need to do, and you're there to support them, right?
That's it. But I don't have to manage anybody.
Yeah.
They just get on and do the work. It is very, very grown up.
Yeah.
And I just check that people are happy and that they've got enough work. And I like to make a point of calling people at least once every 10 days, because a lot of people work remotely, which is the modern thing. Everyone comes into the office, but people do work remotely. If I haven't seen them for a little while, I make the effort to pick up the phone, check they're okay. And they're always very grateful to receive the call. They don't necessarily expect it. They're just glad that that somebody's checking in on them and checking they're okay. So that's good. In terms of my professional work,
yes,
I very much like to do a little bit of everything.
Okay.
And I guess the 2 areas that building surveyors operate, one is building surveys, schedules of condition, PPMs, or plan maintenance programs. I call that professional work. The other side is is the contract work, the building project work or project management. And I like to do both. I like the intensity of undertaking an acquisition survey for a client of a large office building, for example. There's always a tight deadline, and so you inspect and they're wanting a report from you pretty much straight away.
Of course, yeah.
They're wanting an executive summary, and then very quickly after that, they want their full report. And that often means quite a few late evenings, just getting the thing over the line.
Yeah.
But when you're focused because of the deadline, it sort of just works itself through quite well. I enjoy dilapidations, negotiations.
Okay.
We find that there's some very good building surveyors out there who purely deal with dilapidations and nothing else. And they are challenging to deal with because they know their onions. And so I really enjoy the challenge of confronting them and getting a super result for our client.
Bit of a kind of, I don't know, not necessarily legal, but that kind of two solicitors kind of thing, but bargaining
very much so.
ways through it.
Yeah.
Okay.
And so negotiating a brilliant settlement for your client is extremely rewarding.
Yeah. Yeah.
Whether you're acting for the landlord or the tenant.
Okay. And we do cover all of that.
Yes, we do.
Both sides. Okay.
Very much so. Okay. And then even writing planned maintenance programs for a shopping centre, for example, it might seem quite a dry subject, but it's very methodical. And when you get into the meat of writing up a huge document that's very repetitive, it's therapeutic, strangely.
Yeah.
Whereas project management is completely different, and that's an area that I've found myself spending more and more time on over the years. And I really enjoy it. It started off with me managing the refurbishment of retail parks.
Okay.
Around out of town retail parks, so effectively industrial warehouses which are dressed up as retail units. There would be a lot of recladding of those units, a lot of resurfacing of the car parking areas. There would be a lot of extending the units. And so you're taking an existing asset and you're making it look brand new without knocking it down and starting again. And often there would be a drive-through coffee shop that would need to be constructed alongside the redevelopment of the rest of the site. So I've done quite a few of those. And then in recent years, it's led on to the refurbishment of office buildings. And I've done 2 large ones in Bristol and a large one in Bath.
Okay.
And 2 of those were more of a refresh of an existing building where the focus is on refurbishing the interior of the building and cleaning the outside. But a much larger one, which was close to £20 million, was stripping the whole building back to the concrete frame.
Okay, right.
So in many respects, it looked like a 1960s concrete car park.
My question was going to be, what kind of era are you talking about? Because we're sat in a building that is clearly 200 years old in the part of London we're in, and it's got a great deal of history. One of the buildings is called the Tannery, we've got the wool yard, so it's got that heritage.
Yes.
But then obviously there are buildings that were built 20 years ago that need this kind of treatment as well.
Yes.
So where's the sweet spot with what you've been working on?
Well, these are buildings that I've been working on. All of them, in fact 2 of them rather, were built in the early 1990s.
Okay.
And one of them was actually built in the 1960s. And the ones in the 1990s had come to the end of their useful life. They looked tired.
Yeah.
Our clients were unable to charge the rents they wanted to charge, probably only a quarter of the rent that they wanted to charge. So they wanted to refresh them. And for this large project, we stripped the building back to the frame. We actually took down the front elevation completely, and we then extended the building outwards horizontally by about 5 metres because the building wasn't making full use of the footprint that it sat on. The ownership boundary was much larger than the building footprint. So we extended it outwards and then we reclad the front with an expensive glass and terracotta system. Okay. And we also extended the building upwards by 2 stories, and so increased the floor area from about 39,000 feet to 55,000 feet, and completely refurbished the interior. And that building can command rents that are equivalent of a brand new building in Bristol. So it's a clever way of repurposing an existing asset, but also from the ESG side of things, you're reusing as much as you can of an existing building, which is really good. And I enjoy project management because you're part of a team of people that deliver a project, and the larger project I handled started in 2019 and finished in 2024, so it's sort of.
That was going to be a question. So
Yes.
What's the kind of time span on something
a 5 year
that?
period of working with the same group of people.
Brilliant.
And it's not just design people. You've got the client, you've got the commercial agents who will be letting the finished product, so they input into what the building should look like, how it should present to ensure the best rents are achieved.
When I do make it to Bristol, which I've been promising to do for a little while now, you'll have to go and show me these.
Yeah, I'd love to.
As we meet, as someone who hasn't necessarily come from the real estate industry, every time I get the opportunity to sit down with Black Cat colleagues, I'm learning so much, and hopefully we can see that as we kind of go on throughout the recordings. But actually to get the experience on site, like I've been out and met Lisa, for example, that you mentioned earlier, and to see the actual scope of the work that we're able to do and are achieving, it's quite mind-blowing, because just not having that understanding beforehand. So it's exciting. So yeah, definitely you'll have to take me out to that site in particular now we've spoken about it.
No, I'd love to. It presents very nicely. It's a very visual building, and it's in a very prominent position, so it's one I feel proud of. As I drive past it in the morning or walk past it, I think, that's great.
Want to tell the friends, I did that one.
Yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's cool.
But it's great working with a big team of people.
Yeah.
And you go through all the different stages, starting with the initial concept and the feasibility stage, then approaching the local authority to talk to them about whether the building would secure planning permission. And then once you've got the affirmation that consent's likely to come forward, then the full planning application is put in. Yeah. And in parallel with that, the scheme design develops, and eventually the scheme goes to tender to a series of large local and national building contractors. Yeah. And then once the building contractor is appointed, then you've got a whole raft of people from their side who you work with. They've got their own project manager, they've got a contracts manager, they've got a QS, they've got people that are interested in the design side of things, because the contractor will continue to develop the design once they've been appointed. Well, with the procurement route we selected, which was design and build, that's what happens. And so you work with this team for years and watch the site demolished or stripped back and then rebuilt, and we meet with them on a monthly basis formally, and we sit around a table, and I would chair the project team meetings, and we take detailed minutes, and it's just being that part of a team, which is another aspect of being a building surveyor and project manager, which is very fulfilling.
I think that's because that's something I again don't yet fully understand through the the experiences that I'm gaining now, but it is understanding where the when a surveyor, Black Hat surveyor, puts on our hard hat and we walk onto a building site, who's friends on there? Do people look at the surveyor and think, oh no, we know we've done something that maybe not up to scratch, or do they welcome you on board? But going back to right at the beginning of the conversation where you're talking about relationships, right, and that first business lesson, if you, by the sound of it, by the way you're talking quite passionately about making these relationships with people, then hopefully oh, it's Ollie, brilliant, when you arrive on site.
That's right. Yes, it's all about trust and respect.
Yeah.
And I have always respected people I've worked with, whether they're on the other side or whether they're on our side. Always give them time. Always listen to what they have to say.
Yeah.
And they'll always reward you with working collaboratively with you. And that's the key to project management, collaboration.
Yeah.
You can't be a maverick and you can't be disinterested. You have to be interested in everybody, and that ensures you get the best out of them. And they reciprocate.
Yeah.
So it's good.
That sounds perfect. I mean, I think that sounds like a perfect way to potentially end today's conversation. We'll obviously invite you back as we move forward with these. So, Ollie, thank you so much, and everyone listening and watching, thank you for tuning in. We look forward to welcoming you back next time.
Thanks, Andy.
Okay,
Thanks very much.